What's going on, guys? In the works, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about in a short amount of time, but the gameplay you're going to be watching is actually by design. It is some Karkan gameplay. And what was special about Karkan is everybody who got the limited edition or pre-ordered the game basically got Karkan for free. And it came out around December, and it was a pretty awesome DLC. Probably the best out of all the expansions in Battlefield 3. But in Battlefield 4, they're doing something similar, and they just took this opportunity to announce it with the release of the Xbox One news. They basically said, hey, we're coming to the next-gen consoles. The first DLC, if you pre-orders, actually going to be called China Rising, which was really cool. I thought that was a cool name. It sounded interesting, much better than Drone Strike. That was the original kind of, rumor floating around that the next DLC was going to be called Drone Strike. Well, it looks like it's actually going to be called China Rising. So an interesting setting. It gives them a lot of possibilities to stretch from, to draw from different areas of the world. And I think it'll make for interesting gameplay. So I'm actually really, really excited for that. And I did watch the Xbox One thing, and I thought it was, well, the presentation was a little underwhelming, but I was not shocked. I was actually on a round table last night with Matemio, Matt the Musketeer, and Luton, where we talked a little bit about this. If you want to see that, I'll link that in the description. You can go check that out. But I'm going to expand a little bit on my thoughts on the Xbox One, what it really means for Battlefield 4 as a whole, just the gaming scene in general, especially with Battlefield 4, though, because it's a very demanding game. One of the big downsides to Battlefield 3 on consoles was that you couldn't host enough players. There just wasn't enough memory in the game. I mean, the game already ran at a lower setting by a large margin, so they were kind of limited in their capacity. And with the new consoles, if you've looked at the specs, the PS4 and the Xbox One are pretty similar. They both have about 8 gigs of RAM. They both have I think it's an 8-core processor, an AMD, I don't know, it's some fancy AMD processor. I'm not really in the know on AMD because I am an Intel guy, but it seems to be pretty legit. So it's bridging the gap by a pretty big margin to the point where consoles can be on par with, your mid-range PCs, maybe mid-high, something like that for now. I mean, obviously, as they get older, they're going, the PC climate's going to expand, and that gap will increase some more. But right now, they're really closing a gap that I think they needed to do, and that's going to make it a lot better on the console side of things. So if you're an Xbox player, a PS4 player, you plan on getting either of the consoles, I think you will actually be in for a treat, because gone will be these little small servers where, it's 12v12. I think we'll be able to host some larger servers, and I think that's good on two different levels, with the most important being the map design. Map design is something that in Battlefield 3 you could tell that they had to limit themselves a little bit because they have to think about consoles, and consoles couldn't handle the load like you see some of these PCs that can handle out there. So they were limited in that capacity, and I think with them developing with the next gen consoles in mind, map design will take a step in the right direction. I think for all of us, whether you play on PC, console, whatever, it'll be designed where the maps play really, really fluid. And I'm a big fan of consoles personally. I grew up playing consoles. I grew up playing PC as well. I have nothing against them. I want them to be good. I was actually talking in the roundtable is like, well, if I had to choose between an Xbox One and a PS4, right now I may be leaning towards the PS4 just because they did do a better presentation. I currently own an Xbox. I play it every now and then. I hop on there and play it. Heck, I've got over, I think, 150 hours played on Battlefield 3 on Xbox, so it is something that I am a little bit interested in. I would like to see a more fleshed out version of a Battlefield game on console, and I definitely think the new hardware specs will push us in the right direction from both a technical standpoint and a development standpoint, because development is the most important thing. If they have the tools available to them, they're going to take more risk. They're going to push their game even further because they don't have to worry about it not porting over to insert blank platform, because they won't have those limitations. I mean, right now we're actually in a really good state of gaming because PC is on the same level kind of as these new consoles. I mean, it's much more so than with the Xbox and the PS3. I know a lot of PC enthusiasts will be like, well, they'll never bridge that gap. But compared to what it was, it's much better. And I think with the climate of how they develop games now, that's going to be important because we're not going to have these crappy ports, at least for a while. And another interesting thing is they are doing an AMD structured, gaming platform. It's an AMD processor, and I think they both have AMD cards in them. which means that a lot of games are going to port from one console better to the next. So like the PS4 and the Xbox will probably have pretty similar, games now. You won't have that gap where, well, Battlefield 3 plays better on the PS3 than it does on the PS or the Xbox 360. It should be pretty even in that respect. So that's a lot of stuff to really be excited about, especially if you're a Battlefield 3 fan, if you're looking forward to Battlefield 4. I think that's something that we can all, find some common ground in. I mean, PC players will have, they won't be held back by the consoles not being as good. Console players will have the full Battlefield experience that we PC players have been playing for the past 2 years. So a lot of really exciting stuff, especially with the DLC. I'm going to get more in depth in a different video on the hardware specifications and some things that I like to see on that side, and what that will really mean for the Battlefield franchise. But let's talk a little bit about that DLC. I briefly mentioned it at the beginning, the China Rising DLC. I said that there's going to be a lot that they can really draw from. I mean, there's all different places in China. I mean, China's got jungles, China's got deserts, China's got mountaintops. It's got a little bit of everything. So I think this will be really awesome. I think this will be probably a pretty epic expansion. I mean, Karkan was easily one of my favorites, and since, like I was saying, they don't have to focus on being held back by the older hardware of the Xbox 360 and the PS3, they'll be able to focus on making these maps epic and really beautiful. I actually saw the the Call of Duty Ghost trailer comparison with the Battlefield 4 trailer, and it was pretty stunning. I like Call of Duty. You guys know that I have nothing against other franchises. I mean, I'm a gamer. I'm not a fanboy or anything like that. And I was actually kind of mildly intrigued by Call of Duty Ghosts, but I must admit the trailer for Battlefield 4 was much nicer than the Call of Duty Ghost one in terms of a graphical kind of presentation. I think they did a pretty good job with Battlefield 4, so I'm really excited. It seems like we're going in the right direction with this next generation of consoles. Like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a future video, but as far as the DLC goes for the China Rising, I am really, really stoked. Ooh, don't fly that low to me. But obviously we don't know anything from like a technical standpoint. This is more of like a creative standpoint and like just the idea behind the DLC. It's kind of weird to have so much info on the first DLC without actually seeing any multiplayer gameplay. But with E3 right around the corner, I'm sure we're going to have tons of stuff on that. And I'm sure I will be bringing you guys plenty of Battlefield 4 stuff, talking about multiplayer. And ooh, how about ending this with a jet shot with the tank? That's pretty nice. I feel like we have to end on that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Are you excited for the next generation of consoles and how they're going to push Battlefield 4 into the future? And what are your thoughts on this new DLC? I think it sounds pretty cool. As a gamer, I think China will be an awesome setting. So if you missed my past videos, here's an opportunity to catch up, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.